everyone, it's Abby from the Center for Career Development. I'm here today to talk with you about your presence on video calls. We're going to talk about not only how to communicate confidently, but how to exude professional presence as you have those video calls this semester. As you utilize Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, or any other video platform during your classes and meetings, it's important to think about physical components of your call, such as location and lighting, but it's also important to think about how to communicate effectively, knowing when to mute and unmute yourself, using the chat, and even knowing where to look. All right, let's get started. First, let's cover some of those physical components you should think about during a video call. Let's discuss whether or not your video should be on or off. I don't know about you, but I find it much more difficult to listen and pay attention when the person speaking has their screen turned off. Or if I'm the presenter and everyone in the call has their camera off, it's hard for me to know if the audience is engaged and listening. Turning your camera off can be due to several factors. Maybe it's an internet connectivity issue or the device that you're using. Maybe it's the location you're in or any other reason. But if you have the ability to turn your camera on, it is best to do so. According to a study conducted at UCLA, communication can be broken into 7% the words that you use, 38% the tone of voice, and 55% body language. Body language is key for effective communication. By now, you've definitely heard of Zoom fatigue. Within a video call, participants can't read your body language as easily as they can in person. So people are constantly searching for hints about how other participants on the call feel or what they think about the idea that they're sharing. When we turn our cameras off, this makes it even harder for people to identify those hints and can lead to even greater Zoom fatigue. If you absolutely cannot have your camera on for whatever reason, it might be best to let the instructor or the meeting organizer know ahead of time. We'll talk more later about how you can appropriately use the chat feature to help signal that you're engaged and you're listening even when your camera's turned off. If you're ever presenting in class, speaking with an employer at our virtual career fair, or maybe meeting with an instructor one-on-one, it's definitely recommended that you would have your camera on if possible. So maybe you have the bandwidth or the connectivity to have your camera on, but your location or environment isn't one you want everyone to see or that you're worried about. Ultimately, the best option for a video call is to find a space that's clean and professional. You want to make sure the background behind you isn't distracting in any way to other participants on the call. For instance, if I sit here, maybe all the participants on this call are going to want to look at all the things on my fridge. It's really busy in the background and could potentially be distracting. Or if I sit here with all of my dirty clothes behind me, this might be distracting for the participants on the call as well. Some great locations might include in front of a bookshelf, a simple wall, or in an office-like setting. Even your kitchen table can have a relatively simple, clean background that can work. If you absolutely can't find a location that feels professional, you can utilize a virtual background. Just be sure to be thoughtful about the type of call that you're on when choosing that virtual background. Here's a link to some WVU themed backgrounds. I'm going to show you my personal favorite, but let's walk through how to get to a virtual background. So I'm going to go with Zoom, since Zoom is what WVU is using. When you're in the Zoom call, the bottom left-hand corner, there is a video camera icon that underneath says stop video. There's a little arrow right next to that icon that pops up a menu. From there, you can choose virtual background. And then Zoom gives you 6 or 7 different options already loaded in here, like this one or this one. But you can also upload your own JPEGs and your own images that you find. So using that link, you can always upload and use WVU themed virtual backgrounds like this one, or this is my personal favorite. And these would definitely be appropriate. You can also find some that Zoom has some on their website, as well as sites like HGTV that you can choose that are really professional backgrounds. Sometimes it might be appropriate for you to use funny or themed backgrounds such as this one. Just make sure that the call you're on feels like this is appropriate. Maybe you're working on a group project or you're with your coworkers and the meeting is meant to be lighthearted and fun. This would definitely be appropriate. If you're ever questioning whether or not your virtual background is appropriate, it's best to probably stick with a professional one instead of a funny one. All right, to go back to your regular background, you can go back into that choose virtual background and select none. Okay, so now that we've covered that, let's go over some other things to think about with your virtual backgrounds. Zoom recommends not picking an outfit or a virtual background that are the same color, because then you'll have this floating head effect. Also make sure that you don't pick backgrounds or wear an outfit that's really busy or has busy patterns on it, because this can actually cause other participants' eyes to hurt as they're looking at the screen. Now that you know whether leaving your camera on or having a virtual background is more appropriate, let's talk about your setup. How should your webcam and chair be positioned? You want your webcam to be at eye level or a few inches above your head. This does the best job at facilitating eye contact with other participants. If you need to, you can stack books or other items under your laptop to lift it up to the appropriate level, especially if you have something like a standing desk. You want your chair and webcam to be set up so that you fill most of the camera space. If you are too far away from your camera, maybe somewhere back here, you can appear like you're disengaged from that video call. Make sure that your head and your shoulders fill up most of the screen. Another important aspect of your environment for your video call is your lighting. Make sure that it's not too dark in the environment that you're in. For instance, this might be a little bit dark, and I could maybe turn on some lights, put some lamps nearby, or move closer to a window. If possible, it's best to try and have some natural light. So setting up near a window could be beneficial. If you need to use a light source, just make sure the light isn't directly behind you. You don't want there to be a bunch of shadows on your video call, or for it to be, your light source right behind you shining really bright for other participants. For your video call, it could also be helpful to think about if headphones or an external microphone would be helpful. These things aren't must-haves, but using a headset or headphones with an external microphone can be helpful in reducing background noise. Especially helpful if you have roommates, family members, or maybe there's construction outside your apartment. Anything that your computer or phone microphone might pick up that can be distracting for someone else or prevent them from hearing you well. Headphones or other external microphones can help limit the amount of noise projected into the video. If you don't have headphones or an external microphone, that's totally okay. If you're worried about noise in your environment, just be sure to pay close attention to your microphone. Ensure you're muted when you aren't speaking.